Microscopic cells to whopping whales, from red-hot lava to cool, clean water, God is in the business of the real. Yet all too often I place God solely in the spiritual realm. My soul might be for God, but my body, calendar, mind, heart, bank account, family, these are for me. It's a tempting separation. After all, if God is relegated to the spiritual realm, we are in charge of all the rest. God can have all the ethereal, unreal, religious feelies, we reason. We will handle the physical stuff. Yet the first 2 months of spiritual disciplines landed me right in the middle of this dichotomy. Contemplation felt vaporous, something that happened only in the spiritual realm. God was present, of course, but practicing contemplation while I drove often seemed to remove me from being fully available to my family. Serving them was a good exercise, and one that taught me a great deal, but it was also between God and me, and though my family reaped many of the benefits, they weren't really in on the process. I needed to ground this month's spiritual discipline right in the middle of the boots-on-the-ground, tangible, physical, real world. It was time for the examen. The examen is a spiritual practice that dates back to St. Ignatius of Loyola and his particular subset of monks known as Jesuits. Ignatius taught that God calls believers to lives of service, so Jesuits were often a people on the go. This contrasted with other monastics like the Benedictines, who tended to be a more contemplative, rooted sort. Knowing how busy his adherents' lives were, Ignatius came up with a spiritual exercise they could do in the midst of their eventful, fast-paced lives to help keep them connected to God. Despite never marrying or having children, Ignatius really seemed to get the whole speed of family life thing. Bless him. The examen. Inspecting the hours of our days before God, our ups and downs, successes and failures, graces and sins, inviting God to help us become more aware of how His presence is with us throughout the day. The exercise is called the examen, named so because it's the practice of examining your day in order to notice God's presence in its events. Say you took your child suffering from an ear infection to the pediatrician, where you discovered that the wait time was shorter than normal. At the day's end, as you think back over the surprisingly short wait and the blessing of seeing a doctor and receiving treatment, you might thank God for His presence in providing health care, shortening a wait, and getting your child the help she needed. Since my previous spiritual exercises were done with my family present, but largely without their knowledge, I wanted this month to be something we could do together, or at least my husband, Link, and me, since 4-month-old Wilson wasn't exactly verbal yet. I'm pretty sure if he was verbal, he'd mostly just alternate between yelling, "More milk!" and "I hate this car seat with the fire of 1,000 suns." The journey begins. At its simplest, the examen is just looking at some of the day's moments and searching for God in their midst. As Kevin O'Brien notes, St. Ignatius believed that we can find God in all things, at every moment, even in the most ordinary times. Since kids need a narrower framework than every moment, Daryl and I decided to focus on finding God in one difficult, low moment and one awesome, high moment every day. Each night at dinner, we would take turns sharing our low and high and where we noticed God in those events. Simple, right? Because we were usually together for dinner, we would tie our examen to eating. For one meal a day, we'd bring Jesus in, amid the plastic Lightning McQueen dishes, garlicky chicken, spilled milk, refused vegetables, and constant requests for dessert. Because you can't get more creaturely than talking about Jesus while putting food in your gullet. Day 1, the preschooler and the PhD. At our first examen meal, almost 4-year-old Lincoln shared that his high was singing to music in the car with me. Aw. His low was when he fell and scraped his knee. He seemed to be grasping the concept right off the bat, which made my pastor's heart well up with pride. "What was your low?" I asked Daryl. He glanced nervously at Lincoln. How specific do you want me to get? Preschooler appropriate?" "Well, there was a person who sort of made things difficult today." "Who?"